Hello and welcome to the Duke Over podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Matteo Cervelli. Matteo is the CEO of the Urania Group, and it's a B2B manufacturing company doing about $60 million in revenue. It's a third generation family business where Matteo is leading the helm, and he's also a father of two toddlers and a dog. Matteo's mission is to activate talents to create a better world. And he does that by seeing himself and behaving as a people gardener, where he aims to create scaling companies driven by purpose with autonomous workforce as leaders who work and lead others. In today's podcast, we'll be talking about three core ideas. The first is the resonance system, and the second is the questions framework. Both help drive and create frictionless management. And the third is how Matteo actively thinks and drives impact in the work that him and his team does today. Hope you enjoy. Matteo, finally, we're here.
Yeah,
Good to be on. Thanks for being on, man.
Yes. It was a great Friday, and that's just the end of the week. I am without my family because they are taking last week of vacation. So I'm enjoying this time to have this podcast, this conversation together. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man. We were in a so for our audience, we were in a program online for writing, Ship 30 for 30. And I was fascinated by some of the insights that you shared, but then also on today's podcast, the way that you approach business, the way that you see, I don't want to just say first principles thinkings, but how you see beyond surface level and how you see the systems at play in mechanisms, either in people, in cultures, or in business. And I really wanted just to dive into that. But yeah, this is just a good background that we were in a program for writing, and the internet connects great minds. So it's a pleasure to have you on. But let's dive into that. I was pretty interested to learn a little bit more about your approach of a business flywheel, and we can define what that means, but then how you relate that to your first principle thinking.
Yeah, thanks for this question. And yeah, it's great to share about the flywheel, the compounding effect of doing things day by day in the company and having a final effect where everything come out together. And what I mean here about flywheel effect is that we passed through a big transformation, a big change in our company that was really important for us because we were in a profit loss and we risked to go outside of the market and everything. And we had at the time 70 employees. So it was a great challenge. And when we started the transformation, we decided to start from the values, from some shared values with people. The company lacked in culture. So the story behind is that this is a M&A. This is an acquisition we did from our parent company. And so in changing the company, what we saw is that people lacked in a shared culture of making job, of engagement. And we started a transformation based on lean thinking, based on efficiency first, because we needed efficiency, but we decided to activate a path for people to engage people in the company, to start their own journey to become better manager, and so to thrive in the end. But during the journey, it was really hard to wait for results because we did many actions, and on one side, we saw great things, but on the other side, not all people in the company were happy with the transformation. So we continued to do the same things, working on value first, choosing people for some values. We distilled some values in the company, 6, 7 values, more important, that today led us to a better results and led us to managers that improve day by day the company. It's great that when you visit the company today, you visit again after 1 month and it changes again. And this is the effect that today we have. So making some slow adjustment in time, but on shared values, we didn't see results at the time. And it was really hard, but together they came out. And so today the company, it's as a great culture core that's really important for us because it makes management frictionless. because you can lead people with values instead than managing people with actions, with enforcement.
That's so I don't want to gloss over this because this is actually really important and pivotal. And a lot of companies or business leaders might overlook this because, so let's define Flywheel first. I think frictionless management is a key component, but then also you stress the key importance of time to results. There is always a gap between an action
Yeah.
and the fruits of that action. And really, it's depending on the perseverance of the team and the maturity to wait and be patient enough and be prudent enough not to wait too long, which I think is pivotal and important. Because if you wait too
Yeah.
long, you can be burning cash. But this isn't. So I'm going to talk about that because you made a bet and it worked, and that's the strategic thought that I really want to lean into. So
Mhm.
let's go back to traditionally when we talk about flywheels or business flywheels, we might think of like the Amazon flywheel, offer low products, so we have more consumers and more businesses selling, et cetera. And it creates its own flywheel where it's sustainable. This is a different type of flywheel. You're focusing first on what are the end behaviors that we want for our team. Clearly, because you are in I'm assuming this is the manufacturing, where you want to focus on efficiency and like all of Kaizen, all of the supply chain, all of the management, like et cetera, et cetera. With that, that's your end goal. But if you just focus there, you may miss out on the actual team members, the people who are executing that task. Because I think at the end of the day, strategies or initiatives or actions or tactics are simple, right? We just
Mhm.
optimize this, take out this, but it's in the style and in the behavior, how we approach those that makes the significant difference because that attributes to attitude. So then you had the foresight, and I'm just distilling what you said. You had the foresight to focus on what are the core intrinsic values that we want our people executing this to have so that they can live this out without us being there or us having to micromanage. And I think that's strategic, but you made the bet.
Mhm.
You made the bet in the investment. And I want to ask you, how did you arrive to knowing that this is where you needed to make the investment, to
Yes.
bet on the team, to bet on the values? And you're saying, we will probably, maybe a loss, or we might have a lot of expenses for a time. This is our threshold. But
Mhm.
I'm going to bet that this is the right way of doing it. I'd love to know your thinking of what made you arrive to that solution and how did you persevere through the days, the weeks, I'm not sure if it was months, to seeing actual production value and results from the initial bet.
Yeah, it's hard to make good decisions. It's hard to make good decisions that will give results very far in time for the moment you make these decisions. And it's hard for me to say why we decided to stay on these values, but I have two main insights from that moment in time. So the
Mhm.
first one is when the leader in the company changes, the company have to change to align with the shared thoughts, with shared values. That's something that we call resonance.
Mm.
It's something that I heard from my performance coach at the time.
Mm.
So the importance of creating a resonance system in the company.
Can you define that for us? Can we define that? That's actually really important.
Yeah. So resonance is, imagine when you have a core, when you have instruments, when you have lots of music together. You Today you are hearing the final result,
Mm.
but so you have to mix different people that are different in way of executing music and everything. And when everything vibe at the same, not at the same frequency because they are different, it sounds, but at the same rhythm, the same way, when in the same sheet, you will gain this harmony in the end. So in the
Mm.
company, it's the same. And you have to align three things: people, company, and the leader or the leading team or the steering committee. It depends on how many people are there. But if some of these, some of the three, only one of the three is divergent, it's not resonant, you risk to go in different direction. So
Mhm.
it's harder, like a rope that goes right and left. You want to arrive to a final destination, and that's the importance of resonance. So you have to find inner values a resonance in inner values, in company values, in social way of doing things, in personal way of doing things, in how the company align with with external parts, with stakeholders and everything. So this is a resonance system. The level of resonance you get makes everything more enjoyable for everyone. But in the end, it's harder. And
Yeah,
here comes the flywheel. So in the first moment, we distilled how we wanted to craft our culture. Then the flywheel, yeah, you're right. Usually people talk about the flywheel as it's usually intended, it's another things, but the flywheel I'm speaking about, it's not so different. I think that the better way of speaking about the flywheel is on Good to Great book by Jim Collins.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the flywheel that I intended to speak about. Yeah, I shared the value as the main part, the first part of the flywheel, because Jim Collins, for example, talks about right people first.
Yep. It's not what, it's who. And I think when you focus on that, and I'm going to restate what you just mentioned because I think this is a good strategy. Depending when this podcast will launch, if it's end of September or October, it's still like Q4 2022. But when you're doing your quarterly planning, I think it would be important, especially for leaders listening to this. If you're in a company, you're leading a company, it doesn't matter. You're working with people to focus. I love that word, the resonance system of what are the inner values of your core team members? How do they align to the company values? Don't have company values, make company values. And then also, how do you have each team member work in their own interpersonal attitude with the team and with stakeholders? Because I think that's where work flourishes. And that's how we can either, maybe a good analogy would be if you have a team member and they might have a poor attitude or they might have a terrible experience at work, either through managers, coworkers, just the way that it's set, they might have a great skill set, but they're only sharing 30% of that skill set because of the environment and the mindset that you're creating for them. However, if you can create them, it's going to sound weird, like a good pasture for them to be there, to flourish, nourished, maybe they can give 90% of their skill set. And even that's the same person, same payroll, same job, different attitude, different different mental location, really. And I think that's goes back to what we're talking about, the end behaviors that we want to influence our team towards a shared common goal. I love that. The resonance system of inner values. That's great. So as you did that and you started seeing results, how did you continually drive with the team? Because there's one thing of being a one-hit wonder, but the key thing in business is consistency. How do you keep it going?
I am not a consistent person.
Hey, that's it. I think we're all human. We have our ups and downs.
Yeah. But it was my fault. And also, back in time, I was one of the biggest perfectionists I've ever met. But I remember a moment in time that was really important to start our transformation. And it's a conversation at the cafe, at the machine for the coffee, automatic machine. One person from our development team spoke to me and said me, Matteo, so what we have to do about this problem? Like this. We not mention nothing. So I asked him, what are you talking about? And he said me, so you didn't got the email I sent you 5 minutes ago about this project we have with this customer. And it was a technical issue. And there I saw that people accounted me for so many decisions that it was really hard to make a transformation and make efficiency as well. So I started to stop making answers and I started making questions. So I forced myself to stop answer when people ask me about
not just give it away. Okay.
It was very hard at the very beginning. But I have also an indicator at the time. I scrolled through my inbox and I saw that day, 140 emails. That's not a great number for the CEO, but 160 and 40 emails.
I've seen worse, by the way. I've seen worse.
But asking me to make a decision that risks to be crucial for the business. Today, I'm receiving around 10, 12. Some day
10%. Yeah,
less.
that's substantial.
Yeah, I receive more, but only on 10 I feel that I have to answer to say something because I can see something different from other people.
I think,
So
so you empowered the team. And I think that's a crucial point. What was it? The E-Myth from Michael Gerber, who talks about if everyone comes to you, you're the central bottleneck or something around those lines. But essentially, that's what's going on. But you empowered your team to think for themselves. And that sounds, I'm not being rude or unempathetic, but I see it myself too with some teams is that they ask questions. And if you're listening, I love you, but I also want you to think for yourself and figure it out on your. Sometimes I don't answer the question. I was just like, you figure it out because they have the power to think. And that's the most crucial skill set. But we also want to allow the team to have guardrails to not figure it out super off track and have this wild, crazy, non relevant solution that it's actually detrimental or moves things backwards. Interesting. So you were able to do that, cut your intake by 90% and be able to focus only on the most important pieces by providing, you mentioned like frameworks. Was it a framework or decision making? How did you lay it out with the team? Was it just one fell swoop of here's the how I think and here are our core values based on this thinking? How did you really define that for the team?
the core values or the framework about question making?
The framework for the question making.
Questions. There are lots of frameworks, but the one that helped me the most, it's a framework where people don't notice they are answering the question. So people come to me, okay, and ask me to solve some problems. So I have this problem with this person. I have this problem with business, with performance. And so I start making question. For example, who's in fault? Who did make a problem? Who did make the mess? And what's the mess? What's the problem? So define better the problem. What's the best solution for you? And people usually hear speak about this person has to do this, or we need more money, we need another solution, I need you to make things. And then I ask, and if I make this, the problem is solved, this problem that you stated is solved? And usually the answer is no. And so they start to craft another solution. And in the end, you have to finish with, and when we meet to see what you learned about and what happened with the solution you
implemented. Yeah.
Yeah.
To the results and accountability.
And this is something that I had from two people. One is one coach, another coach that talk about this performance way of making meetings, conversations about the idea of don't bring the monkey home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one comes from Dale Carnegie, the author of How to Treat People. And I don't remember the final
How to win friends and influence people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. And where he speak about a conversation he had at a party with a woman and that talked all the time. And in the end, she said, "You are great. You conversate very well. You said me very insightful things." And he didn't say nothing, only making question and listen to people.
Because they felt that they were guided by the conversation. That's very powerful. As a leader and as you continue to grow, what are some of the things that you're seeing off in the horizon that you want to improve, but also the things that excite you the most? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, that today we are crossing. So the first 3 years, we had this challenge of turning black from profit loss. In 22, 24 are 3 years of scale up in revenues. We are two companies, and the companies that produces windows and doors, we want to scale up. So we are pushing a lot with something that's really hard for us to make, that's inbound marketing and inside sales. And the Ship 30 experience I did helped me a lot with the importance of copywriting, but the importance of how we engage people, the importance of distribution of contents, and it's important. But the real challenge for me, and to be honest, it's from 2019 that I have this challenge in mind, is to move from a manufacturing company making stuff to a purposeful company. So we crafted a purpose in the company that's something that's not very public because we want to improve a bit, but it's related to the fact that well-being is by beauty. And beauty frees people to think better, to have better life. So we make components for constructions. And the main idea here comes from one theory that's not a scientific theory. That's the theory of the broken glasses by some sociologists from the US. And one it's the professor Zimbaldo, the one of the Stanford experiment. And so this theory states briefly that a better environment, a better place where to live or where to work helps people to focus more on the good part of the job, on good ideas, on good things. So imagine a world where people live in better houses, don't have the constraint of poverty about how bad is my house. And so if you live in a better environment, our idea is that a better environment helps people to thrive and to make better things. So it's a together effect of people giving up, making wars, I hope so, but between each other to create a better world together. That's really related to my why. So here I'm instilling my why in the company. My why is to trigger people to create a better world. And the idea is to instill this in the company in a purpose that's related to make available spaces
to create better. Let's also focus on communities, making better communities. Yeah. And that's what you mean by like impact focus, or transitioning from just the job that you do to the job plus the impact equals this, which will produce better communities, better, like we talked about earlier, in the companies, you can create a better environment. That's a physical and a mental state. But here you're focusing on the physical state to lower issues with social issues that come with that, but have people be able to strive for more and do.
It's a transition from what we do. We distilled how we do it, the values, and we want to go through the why we do things. And the final why is that we want to create a better world. That's something that we didn't talk about this, but we are a family business. I'm the third generation CEO in the business, and my grandparents from the very beginning, my grandparents, but my grandfather mainly, really wanted to create a world of better environment, thriving people. And it's something that I suppose in Italy we are lucky because our roots are placed in our small businesses environment, where we don't win against another, but we win together because we are small.
There's a unity, yeah.
Yeah. Today it's not like this.
Yeah.
This is a one model that I think it's really insightful for us to try to recreate in our purpose. And the idea is to create a laboratory for creating solutions and to craft the purpose in actions, in businesses and everything.
It's a very noble cause, but most importantly, it's something that you're driving. And I think that can be an inspiration for other teams, other businesses to always know the why behind it, but also to live it out. And that even empowers the team to do better, knowing that they're doing something that's bigger than themselves. That's always awesome. But Matteo, I appreciate really gaining insights from you on the resonance behavior system, the question system, and then now looking at how you look at impact and wanting to have a place of value add for your team and for the community at a global scale. For our listeners out there, what's the best place for people to go to one, thank you to being on this podcast, and two, learn more about you? Where can they go?
Sorry, I didn't get that. This was a question. So they can go to, I share things in Twitter, in LinkedIn, but the best place to meet me and to talk with me, it's on Twitter with my direct messages. And I have a blog. That's from where I take the thoughts that I share on social platform. That's my name and last name together.com. So MatteoCervelli.com, or Matteo Cervelli in English pronunciation. That's the place where I share all my knowledge, let's say, and on Twitter and on LinkedIn, I repurpose things from this platform.
No, absolutely. Cool. I'll link those in the show notes, Matteo. It's a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.